of course, it's the 12 steps and 12-week seminar that our good buddy here, Kurt's put on for us, or set up. Tonight we're doing step 4. And we have Michael D. and Liz as our speakers, and I believe Liz is going to go first. And pending on a group conscience and our speakers, whether we take a break or not. If we do, it'll be around 10 minutes to 9. So I will give the floor to them two.
Is that me? I'm Liz, I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Liz.
That's all I got. Oh.
Good job.
All right, well, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got to my steps. I was in the program for about a year, just in and out about a year before I decided to finally get a sponsor. I was about 3 or 4 months sober when I found a sponsor, and it felt like I was opening a whole bunch of presents, you know, like brand new puppy kind of. I just felt really blessed just to even have a sponsor. And then I started working the steps. I did the first 3 right off the bat. And it wasn't hard. It seemed like it should have been harder for me. You know, everyone's always procrastinating, doing the steps, and it wasn't, the first 3 wasn't that hard. When I started the 4th, I procrastinated, because that's just what I do. I procrastinate till I have to get it done. That was hard for me to start them, because I'm pretty much passive. Anything that happened, I just let it go. I didn't want to bring it up. I didn't want to deal with any of those emotions. That someone hurt me, I just, whatever. And I wouldn't deal with it. I wouldn't think about it. I wouldn't want to have them say sorry. I wouldn't want to say sorry to them. It just never happened, is what I pretend for it to do. And so, and I already knew that everything that anyone had done to me was probably eventually my fault anyways. It's a royal bitch. And I probably deserved a lot of it. And so once I got past that part and just started at square one about when I first started using, and then even before that I had to go back to some resentments I had pushed away, writing them down. During that time period, I kind of got depressed, bringing up all that stuff, trying, you know, why did that person make me feel that way? Because there's a format in the book. Why did it make me feel that way, and what emotions or part of my life did it affect? And when I really had to start thinking about it, it brought up a lot of emotions I didn't want to deal with. And I got depressed, and I got angry. I got mad and sad. And I could see easily how that step would make anyone want to go back out, you know. You don't want to have to deal with that stuff. Seeing a lot of the different people making me feel the same way, that was very interesting, and it changed my viewpoint on a lot of people and places. Getting through that was hard. Once I got through it, though, the blessings just started pouring in, one right after another. Once I started talking to someone about it, getting through those emotions and actually dealing with those. Okay, this made me feel like this, and it hurt really bad, but now I can move on, and it's okay that I felt like that. I had my moment, and now I can get on with it. Now I can actually let it rest. So, like those old ghosts, you know, they come back and live, and they have to solve that issue, and then they can go on to heaven now, you know. that's kind of how I felt about my issues doing them. I learned a lot about myself doing this. The way I let people let me feel. I let people, intimidate me and make me feel this way. And I shouldn't allow people to let me feel that way. And that going into my 5th step. Wrote it down. Well, doing this, I realized that, I did realize in the beginning it was a lot of my fault. The more as I did it, I realized how people were hurting me. And then it went back to where I was wrong. And going back over this list helped me realize what exactly I was doing to deserve that. Like I put myself in that situation for them to do that. And I took inventory of myself, basically, and where I was at when I used to use. If I did that now, today, with the people that surround me, it'd be totally different. A lot of it would be positive. I don't think very much of it would be negative. I liked doing the 4th step. It was scary. It was intimidating. Just one of those things you got to do and get over with. It's like climbing up that mountain. You just got to keep going. You can't stop. Recommend not stopping doing it. I got stuck in a rut. And I'm glad my sponsor was like, hey, we gotta stop, and whatever you have, we just gotta move on. Otherwise, you sit there and you just keep digging that hole, those resentments, that anger. And it's hard to come back from that dark place that you're at, that you were at. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. It kind of set me free in a way. Just to get it out, just to write it down. Because I've never done that before, write anything down, like what my feelings, I just kind of keep it up, emotionally shut off, writing it down to see what does make me feel that way, help release it, and then on my 5th step, after that, it goes on from there. In closing, I recommend that everyone does it, their 4th step. It's hard, and it's a pain in the butt. It's homework for sure, but I do recommend it. I'll set you free. That's all I got.
Thank you. Thanks, Liz. Yeah. That's beautiful. I'm Michael D, and I am the alcoholic.
I'm Michael D.
Sure are. The reason why I say I am the alcoholic is one of the groups I first started attending had this poster on the wall. It said, the typical alcoholic, and it had most major profession in the United States: bricklayer, teacher, judge, police officer, bricklayer, construction. Anyway, so I am the alcoholic. I can put my face on that poster in that meeting. I'm gonna skip through life history briefly and first 3 steps. I was kind of a shy, withdrawn child up till I started drinking and having issues with outside issues. Gave me the ability to talk freely. You know, it was a social lubricant. I felt like I fit into something bigger than myself, you know, when I was drinking. And that's when I started drinking. You know, I felt like I was part of something grand, you know, something better than what I was going through. Was brought up in a good family as far as I can see. Parents didn't drink or use. I've seen my brother drink a couple times, never seen my brother drunk, or my sister either. You know, it was a good home life. You know, when my parents would have a fight, it'd be in the other room with the door closed. There was no physical violence, pretty sheltered childhood. I guess I'll move on from there. Been in and out of the program since '99. I had the crutch of the court system. I didn't really apply myself. July 4th, 2002, I received a felony DUI. That was my 3rd DUI, and I thought my rock bottom was I was in booking by 5 p.m. on the 4th of July. I had big plans for that night. I couldn't understand why 2 hours later I couldn't convince them I was sober enough to let me out. I needed to make it to that night, this party. And it was felony probation. It was a little bit more strict. No trying to slide stuff, pull the wool over their eyes. I had too much to lose. I shared a little bit of my story, and somebody said, "It sounds like you've worked the first 3 steps." I smiled and said, "Yeah, I have." You know, had this, you know, sponsor. I got dropped off my first Whiskey Mike's camp out. Didn't have a driver's license. My mom dropped me off up there with my, you know, change of clothes, tent, cooler, and mountain bike. And then, you know, came Sunday and people were leaving. And I asked this gentleman if he'd give me a ride home. You know, that's a long ways to ride a bike, and didn't have a trailer for the rest of the crowd. And then on the way home, I asked him if he'd be my sponsor. Now, the way I was working this sponsor is I'd wave at him from across the room and say, "There's my sponsor." He was calling me more than I was calling him. But he gave me a business card. You know, I thought I was doing everything the best of my ability. You know, I relapsed out of town. And it's every time I relapsed, either I'd have the gall to act so surprised how quick I got messed up, or the moment of clarity would hit me after I had the first drink. Oh, I shouldn't have done this. What was I thinking? Well, what's done is done. No use crying over spilled milk. Give me another. February 25th, my last drunk, blackout, did everything best of my ability. I was on a pool league, knew I was going to get plastered. Drove to a buddy's house I shot pool with, got a ride with him to pool. Got thoroughly sloshed. Not sure how I did the last 2 games of pool. He was too drunk to drive. Got a taxi ride home. Now, I had never gotten a taxi ride for myself in my life. I'd ridden in a taxi before, but it wasn't my money paying for that taxi. I never split a taxi with anybody. Who knows what would happen to my truck if I left it at the bar. Anyway, went home. I remember getting jammied up, nuking a couple corn dogs sitting in front of the fireplace. Like I say, it's February, pretty cold. Anyway, jammied up, eating corn dogs in front of the fireplace, getting warmed up, about ready to go to bed. Next thing I remember, my dad's waking me up. "Where's the work truck?" No, it went more like this. "Where's the work truck? What are you doing?" I don't know. Look out both windows. I don't know. Hurry and brush my teeth, run out the front door, and there's some tear-off marks leaving my driveway. It was stolen.
Oh.
I always left the key in it because I learned that fondling the door lock was very uncomfortable. And I'd misplaced my keys. My friends couldn't take my keys from me if I always left it in the vehicle. And if they took the keys, I learned to leave a hide-a-key on the truck. You know, I'd wait till they weren't paying attention, jump in the truck and leave. Next morning, make my amends, get my keys back. Anyway, I knew deep down in myself I had done it. But you know, I was still striving for plausible deniability. Anyway, this was February 25th. My parents showed up looking for their son. Luckily, I was the first place they looked, because my boss couldn't get a hold of me. You know, police called the guy the truck's registered to, my boss. Tried getting a hold of me, phone shut off or something. Anyway, called my parents. My parents called my brother. Luckily, I was the first place they stopped. My brother shows up bawling, thinking he was going to have to go look for his brother dead or dying in a ditch somewhere. Because he was fairly familiar with my drinking. He knew I drank pretty good. Anyway, the following night, I still had this sponsor's business card. I called him up. I can't remember what he said, but it was what I needed to hear. And then, you know, I felt I really wasn't using him in the past, so I needed to get another sponsor. There was a guy I had a resentment in a meeting with years before. Anyway, I ran into him in another meeting, asked him if he'd be my sponsor. He said yes. And I was one of those persons that needed a second opinion about everything. So I had one sponsor as a spiritual advisor, and another sponsor that was a book thumper. He's the one I worked the steps with. If I didn't like what one sponsor was saying, I'd call up the other one. If they both came to the same conclusion, they must be right. Anyway, I approached this second sponsor and said, I'm ready to do fourth step now. He goes, that's great. It's outlined in the book. If you want to do it with me, there's some things you need to do first. Because I'd worked the first 3 steps before. Not really, but I thought I had. Somebody told me it sounds like you worked the first 3 steps. So I thought I had. So, working with this sponsor, just a real quick overview of step 1, 2, 3. He had me write a list of 15 things I was powerless over. That was easy for me to do. And anything I think I'm powerful over, I am unmanageable. Anything I'm powerless over, I'm also unmanageable. And then write a list of 15 crazy things I did while drinking I thought was normal. All right, I'll just go through. Drive friends home so they wouldn't have to get a DUI, even though I was drunk, too. Lighting off fireworks. That was okay. Towing a buddy home. I'd be towing somebody behind me. They're hooked to me, and I'm towing them home. Drunk. What's wrong with that? Just because I want to do the speed limit. Shoot. Attending a funeral? Let's see. Helping a friend pack and move. When I'm intoxicated, my packing skills are great. It's more empty the drawer into the box. Swimming while drunk. I just don't float. Anyway, so it's easy for me to see, I was doing, crazy things. Step 2. Can't believe the power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. So this is insane. I thought it was normal at the time. You know, step 3, he had me read the 3rd step prayer out loud to someone for a week. All right. You know, meanwhile, he wanted me to call him every night. Just get in the habit of calling him. Step 1, he had me putting pen to paper to get me used to putting pen to paper. And, you know, he was telling me 15, make a list of 15, make a list of 15. I was doing 25, 30, trying to impress him. So, make a list of 25 things then, smart ass. 25 things I'm good about, or 25 good things about me. Okay. You know, good problem solver, good at woodworking, I am patient, you know, stuff like that. Had me do a list of 20 good things about myself. After I'd been able to do that the next day, he said, okay, there's 3 ways that I know that you can do the 4th step. There's shorthand, you know, when the law intervened, or when you think you became an alcoholic, when you feel like you had an alcohol problem. Long story form, when I feel my life went off track. You know, and that'd be easy for me to do too. When I was in junior high, I had a best friend I did everything with commit suicide. And something in me snapped. I had a good upbringing. I was a good kid, a little shy and withdrawn. But I tried to be something different. You know, I started getting in trouble. You know, I got in trouble at school, getting in fights. I wanted to skip school. I started hanging out with people that were, you know, my friends who were less good for me, other troublemakers, bad boys. Or, you know, like it's defined in the big book, part of How It Works, page 65. You know, I'm resentful at the cause affects my, and then he had me put a 4th column, my part in it. At the top of each page, he suggested I write, God, let me be honest to myself. And, you know, and I'm really glad I was eager to do the 4th step from the get-go. And the way my sponsor had me, you know, do the steps. And then God let me be honest to myself. You know, and I started putting down these names. And started out with the screw me list. Everybody I thought had just screwed me right over. You know, and then my part in it. How I could see my part in every situation. And, you know, the list. You know, it seemed like it was over half where I was resentful at myself. And then I had a part in it. And the cause, you know, self-esteem, you know, just like it's outlined in there. Gonna do some more reading out of the book here. Step 4 is our vigorous and painstaking effort to discover what these liabilities in each of us have been and are. We want to find exactly how, when, and where our natural desires have warped us. We wish to look squarely at the unhappiness this has caused others, and by discovering what these emotional deformities are, we can move toward their correction. Without a willing and persistent effort to do this, there can be little sobriety or contentment for us. Without a searching, fearless moral inventory, most of us have found that the faith which really works in daily living is still out of reach. You know, I was doing a lot of bad things. And it, like Liz was saying, it is uncomfortable. Why I procrastinated, you know, the first time I really didn't work the steps. But I didn't even attempt step 4. I wouldn't do anything further than what I could read off the the steps on the wall. Because I didn't want to do that, and I was foreseeing step 5. I was going to have to tell somebody about this. Well, you know, just for me, I needed to get it. It's not a race to the finish, but the quicker I was able to do the 4th step, the less time I was going to suffer while doing a 4th step. I had nothing really better to do. You know, I easily had 2 hours every night after work or before. You know, I was reading out of the big book, keeping centered. You know, I read the first 164. I was attending a lot of meetings, and I was in a very good place for me to do my 4th step. I was, you know, and it was very revealing. I thought, you know, there was a lot of female offenders that I had a part in. And I had, you know, one of the things when my spiritual advisor sponsor would say to me is, under the microscope of the universe, how big is this problem? Now, when I'd go home with the female individual from the bar, and I'd wake up and she'd beat me out of her own house, I was resentful at that. What about breakfast? What if I wanted to take you out to breakfast? Not that I did. I can't remember ever doing that, but what if? And, you know, there's a lot. You know, that no means no means no. Another example, a friend that broke my nose, how could I have any part in that? Well, if I remember back clearly and think about how I egged him on and started calling his names, or his wife names, to tick him off, no wonder. Therefore, thoroughness ought to be the watchword when taking inventory. In this connection, it is wise to write out our questions and answers. It will be an aid to clear thinking and honest appraisal. It will be the first tangible evidence of our complete willingness to move forward. And the last time I came into this program, I was willing to do this program by any means necessary. If I needed to stand on my head with a suppository to get this program, I was willing to do that. Because what I was doing wasn't working. Going to meetings without working the steps wasn't working. Having a sponsor I waved at from across the room just was not working. I did everything the best of my ability without not drinking and not using. So I needed to do what was suggested, and I was finally teachable, finally open-minded. You know, like how? Or honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. I did what was suggested, the best of my ability at the time. And my sponsor told me if I do a searching, do a complete 4th step, the best of my ability, I don't have to do it. Another one the rest of my life. And then a little bit of 5th step, I reviewed it with my sponsor. He goes, that's great. You can tear it out and burn it, or you can use it for a cheat sheet for your 8th step. I needed a cheat sheet. I'm still lazy. Easier, softer way. I still try to make up my own mind today. Now, a little bit of the 10th step, continue to take personal inventory, and when we're wrong, promptly admit it. If it takes me 2 days to promptly admit it, I need to add it to my 4th step. It's no longer, oh, I'm sorry. I need to write it out. You know, and so, and then, you know, and so that's why I keep my 4th step so I can add to it. If it takes me 2 days, I can add to it and do step work. I don't like to write it out, write stuff down, you know, so I try to do everything the best of my ability and promptly. I was at a meeting, you know, and talking with this gentleman. It was a visitor. He says that every year on his sobriety birthday, he redoes his 4th step. And I thought, well, that sounds like a good idea. I didn't do it. When I volunteered to do my 4th, or share how I'd work the 4th step, I just started, my mind got spinning. I said, well, I can quote the hell out of the book, and I can go on from start to finish, and I can go through 2 hours easy. And so I tried to get a happy medium, which I kind of shared tonight. Ah, hell. Maybe I'll just redo my 4th step. And it was a fairly enjoyable experience. You know, I've had time off, you know, a week off for Thanksgiving. You know, everybody was out of the house. The kids had left, went to grandma's. Girlfriends at work. You know, so I sat down and did another 4th step with the absence of female offenders.